welcome, DeJuan. You're obviously a big part of the podcast and everything we do with YouTube. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is DeJuan Jordan. I moved from Detroit to Northern Michigan in 2008 and came to college here because NCMC was affordable compared to all the other community colleges in Michigan. Definitely did not know what I wanted to do when I got up here. I just needed to get away from home. So, this is where it landed me, and it was beautiful. So I was just like, kind of been here since 2008, basically.
Absolutely. No, I think your story is great because a lot of people have moved here from a lot of places, but I don't personally know anybody else that has moved here from Detroit. So what is that what was that transition like? What was it culture shock? What was it like moving from, I don't want to say inner city unless it was inner city, but what was it like? Where did you go to high school?
So I went to high school at Martin Luther King.
Yeah, so that's downtown.
Yep. Not far from downtown at all. And I lived on the other side of the graveyard there. Anybody who goes there will know what I'm talking about. I used to actually walk through the graveyard to school. I don't
know what the graveyard means. Can you explain?
It's an actual graveyard. It's a very huge graveyard. I forget the name of it, but it starts on East Verner, which is where I lived. You come up off Gratiot. You can either keep going down Gratiot, you can make a slight right and go down East Verner, and that's like the apartments that we grew up in. And as far as moving up here from down there was a definite culture shock. The first thing that blew my mind was when I was hanging out with some friends, and this guy was like, "Hey, come out to my house, and it's your boy, and we'll throw a party." And we're like, "Cool." So me and my buddy Keon, we hop in the car, we go out there, and this guy just like walks into his house. Like he doesn't have it locked or anything.
Right.
He just walks in, and we're just like,
which is how everybody does it here.
Yeah, we're just like, bro, people aren't locking their cars. People are leaving their keys in the car.
That's funny.
Yeah, and it's just mind blowing. Honestly, it's funny to say that I still haven't quite gotten used to that, and it's been over a decade now.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
What do you miss the most about living in Detroit versus living up north?
Honestly, I just miss the variety of options of things available to you, like food, or if I want to, get a group of guys together to play a 7-on-7 football game or something. It's just easier to do. There's just more going on down there. Because it's a city. It's a big city, just like any big city. Yeah.
Has it gotten better over the 10 years you've been here? Has it gotten more, what's the way I want to say this? Are there more restaurants? Are there better restaurants? I feel like over the last 10 years, Northern Michigan has really transitioned a little bit to, so when I lived in Northern Michigan my whole life, and then I went to college in Metro Detroit, and I came back, and I thought when I came back after having access, like you just mentioned, to better restaurants, going to sporting events, malls, I feel like maybe not completely, but Northern Michigan has closed the gap, with Amazon and stuff like that. And I think the restaurant scenes have gotten better. And as Northern Michigan has become more of a year-round destination, I feel like it's not as bad as it was 10 years ago. Do you feel the same way, or is it still too secluded for you?
No, actually, I definitely feel that it has grown, and more places, more things are happening than when I did first move here. The interesting part is that it seems to be less snow every year.
Yeah.
And, I finally get into skiing because if you live up here, you have to be in
100%.
skiing. If you're not,
you should be.
If you're not, there's no point in you being here in the winter, to be fairly honest. If you're not in there getting on the hills and getting out and enjoying snowbird activities.
Right.
But it's kind of weird that now that I'm finally into skiing, for the last 3 years I've raced at Nubs Knob, that we've had cancellations just because of that. Yeah. When I first moved here in 2008, there were plenty of days where you weren't going outside because there was so much snow.
Right. And this year, I've lived here my whole life besides, a couple years here and there. This is the mildest winter I've ever seen. I feel bad for the ski hills because that stretch between, Christmas and New Year, that's a pretty important stretch for them. And the tickets are $200 or $300 a piece. And it was like a thunderstorm. It was raining. There's mud on the hills. So
yeah,
it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, definitely right.
Tell me about your journey, and I'm going to put you on the spot because I like the way, this is something you and I joke about, is the number of jobs you've had in Northern Michigan. So give us your path towards what you're doing now from a career standpoint.
Yeah, no, it's funny. So as I was saying earlier, I moved here in 2008 to go to school. I did not know exactly what I wanted to do. I was going to school for computer information systems, and then I realized that I didn't like programming, and I was just like, I'm not going to do programming, So with that, I ended up joining the workforce of just working wherever I could go. Mancino's was the only job I actually got fired from. And that's just because I had no ambition to show up to work. And once I got fired from there, I actually walked down the street and it was called Papaloose at the time. Yep. Now it's Duffy's Garage and Grill where I started to work. That was mainly for summers because that's when they were busy, working 12-hour shifts, cooking, serving, whatever I could do. I've also worked places like the Odawa Casino or Petoskey Plastics or Furman Irrigation, right. Just to get a variety of what was out there. It took me to a lot of jobs to realize that I hated all of them, right, and that I needed to create something for myself.
Absolutely.
So at a certain age, I want to say probably about 7 years ago, I was just like relentless at figuring out like how I could become a music producer. Like that was my goal because I had a bunch of friends that were making like rap songs, hip hop songs around here in Petoskey. They were even doing shows like at the time, like Papaloose had like, weekend shows, and I would always be the one that's like kind of editing and recording, like putting their music together and stuff like that. So that's when I realized that I really liked it. But also that was like me in like the worst point in time where I was like literally like just very financially unstable. Right. Like I did not have a place. I was like living with a girl at the time. And I just, decided that I couldn't live with her anymore. I didn't want to like, live, like feel like a mooch, So I actually moved away and lived back with my mom for, I want to say probably about 3 to 5 months, something within there. And within that time I was down there, I was doing a little bit of scrapping metal. And I was like, man, this is kind of like,
legally or unlegally? Or illegal? Okay, legally.
Legally. Like you just ride around and like people have thrown stuff out on the side of the road and it's something that you can scrap. All right. Me and a guy, his name was Tim, we would throw it in there. And, that was like my first taste of being like, okay, this guy makes his own schedule. Right. There's something there. And I was like, but I don't really think scrapping metal is going to be it,
Probably not the answer.
No. So in the meantime, I'm at home and I'm editing music and trying to make beats on FL Studio, and they sound like complete garbage. Right. But I'm sitting there for 10 hours, nonstop editing. I got to go to the bathroom. My legs bouncing. I got to eat. My stomach's growling. It's just like, but I'm like enjoying what I'm doing so much that I'm just like holding everything off, and I'm realizing like if I could find something that I could do for a living that made me feel like I wanted to lock in like this, I could be successful at it. So I thought it was going to be music. And then after that, I ended up moving to Florida in Cocoa Beach to go to Full Sail University in Orlando. So I had a buddy that had some friends in Cocoa Beach. He was able to connect me. Sure. And once I went to Full Sail, I did an orientation, and then I found out how much it actually cost to go there. But while I was there, I got to see all the equipment they use and different things. And they took us to a video editing room where they were working on some sort of Pixar thing. And I was just like, this is what it just took me. After that, I was like, visual is what I want to go. I can edit video stuff. I did decide not to go to Full Sail because I didn't want to get that much in debt from going to school. Yeah, I don't blame you. I realized, like, to me, I call it YouTube University. 100%. Because I learned so much. I ended up leaving Cocoa Beach and moving back to Northern Michigan. And I actually found a program, WACTEP, through the Little Traverse Bay Bands of Odawa Indians. Okay. And they were offering a scholarship where it was like if you maintain over a certain GPA and like, finish these classes, they'll give you stipend. Nice. They'll give you, all this kind of stuff for these classes called New Media, which included video production, audio, web design, Illustrator, all those type of things. So coming back here was like a blessing in disguise to actually get my foot into this. And then everything after that has been YouTube University, to the point to where now I've been operating business for the last 4 years of being a video production person here in Northern Michigan. And
you might be I at least think you are the best video editing professional in Northern Michigan.
I appreciate that, definitely. I like to, there's definitely some great creatives up here who make some really good content and stuff like that. So, and there's not a lot of us. So that's what is nice about this area, is that I feel like I got on the train early because video production was not popular up here until COVID happened, which kind of switched everything.
And now, obviously with what we do at the brokerage, video is a huge part of it. And I tell you this all the time. I tell a lot of people this, that the need for video in your business is not going away. So I think you're in the catbird seat, because a lot of these businesses up north is, and up north is, no offense to anybody, sometimes a little bit behind the rest of the world, but the video is going to be a big part of business and a big part of marketing for a long time until, AI or holograms or something else overtake it. So I definitely think there's going to be a lot of need for your service, and we've obviously appreciated working with you. So,
yeah, definitely. Got to watch out for that AI.
That's right. What would you describe the overall vibe of Northern Michigan? Like, if you could just describe it, what would you say?
I would say the overall vibe that I gotten from Northern Michigan is pretty accepting, to be honest. Like, the majority of people that I've worked with or have become my friends have always like invited me to do things that I wouldn't have access to normally, like getting on boats or, come over to our pool party or something like that. It just, feels like the word of mouth that spreads here is what really makes you as a person. Because it's such a small area, and like once you start to make a name for yourself, doors open up left and right. With that also being said, if you don't know anybody here, it is one of the roughest places that you can go to and try to make a living. I've seen a lot of people come here and have to move back to where they came from just because of character issues. If your character's off, people will pick it up real quick and you will
spread
be solo.
fast.
Out here. So.
What is one thing, and I want these conversations as we grow the podcast and do more of these interviews, I want these to be honest conversations. That way somebody considering moving or relocating to Northern Michigan can get the truth, which is why we call this the Know My Truth. What is one thing you hate about living in Northern Michigan?
The one thing, I guess, I guess overall I would just have to say the lack of things to do in between seasons. So like spring obviously is there's no reason for anyone to be here in spring, in my opinion.
That's why there's spring break. That's why God invented spring break.
Yeah, exactly. I think that that's one of the issues is just that certain times there is nothing going on. And I'm talking like restaurants closing. Right. Like no one's here. It is a ghost town. But if you're in the summer, it's a blast. Honestly, I can't see myself missing another summer for the rest of my life. At all for Northern Michigan. I don't necessarily see myself living here year round all of the time for the rest of my life, but I know that I will always be here on the seasons when it's popping, like summer, fall, things like that. Winter during certain periods of time, like open house downtown, things like that.
No, and there's a reason why, there's some very, very wealthy people moving here. And it's before the summer. They're not here in the winter. They're not here in the spring. Maybe they're here a little bit in the fall. But, the Northern Michigan summer is unmatched, I think, anywhere in the world. So
I agree. I
definitely agree with you there.
If I had to say one other thing, too, I would say that price for rent for your average person is, out of this world. You actually probably have to live with somebody else if you work a regular job here.
No, I think the cost of living is, I don't want to say the elephant in the room, but that is certainly something. If I were in your chair, and I would have to say the one downside of living in Northern Michigan, one thing I hate about Northern Michigan is the cost of living. It's unaffordable to live here for just about every normal person. Yeah,
it's not LA, but it's not far from it.
No, it's not. It's not, and it's getting there. What do you think are some unique characteristics of this area that make it special?
I think that the uniqueness of this area is honestly just the amount of fresh water around you. Being able to go from Crooked Lake to the Traverse Bay or Walloon Lake or Lake Charlevoix, all of them are great. All of them you want to jump in and nothing's gonna try and bite you or
take you. We were just talking about this yesterday. I love going to Florida. I like looking at the ocean. I don't like the ocean. I don't like swimming in it. It tastes bad. Yes. And I think, having the conversation with you helped me realize that it's just because I'm so used to the freshwater. Last summer, you and I were on a pontoon boat. We're jumping off the top deck and we didn't think twice about it. If you're in the ocean, you don't know what's going to happen when you go in that water. I mean, there's creatures, there's stingrays and sharks. And so I definitely think that's something that those of us that have been here for a long time take for granted.
Yeah, you're definitely not worried about those in these waters.
What are some things you think somebody who's either just moved here or is considering moving here, is visiting here, what are a couple things they have to do if they're here? They have to see, they have to experience, maybe a restaurant. What's your insider opinion?
I think something that you have to experience, one of my favorite things overall in general is riding the bike path. I mean, being able to go from, I don't even know how far, but the furthest I've went is from like Harbor Springs to Charlevoix or something like that by using one pathway, and just really like you're riding around the water, like you're taking in like, you know, the views and stuff, you know, of northern Michigan. I mean, obviously it's not everywhere. Does it go to Mackinac?
So the Little Traverse Wheelway does not go to Mackinac.
It doesn't go to Mackinac.
It doesn't go to Mackinac. Okay. There's a snowmobile trail if you have like a mountain bike or a bike that's not as bigger tires that you can go all the way to Mackinac.
Yeah, I think that if you ride a skateboard or a bike or like anything like that, that's like one of the things. I also want to add to that. You know, if you're here, you got to check out Mackinac Island. You know, that's where if you're a celebrity, you go here to check out Mackinac Island and like, you know, kind of lay low and enjoy the fact that you're not gonna have it's not a city vibe. You know, you can come here and you can get away. You're not gonna people might know that you're around, but you know, it's not gonna be like people waiting outside for you when you leave a restaurant because you're famous here.
Well, Mackinac Island. Yeah. What's a hidden gem or a lesser known place that you like?
In northern Michigan.
Yeah, in northern Michigan.
Actually, you know what? I think my favorite place that no one really knows about, and I know I probably should keep this to myself. I don't know if I should.
Maybe.
I guess not.
No, that's why they listen.
No, Weber Lake, honestly.
Okay, where's Weber Lake?
Is so legit.
For those that have never heard of it.
It's in Wolverine, Michigan. It's honestly, there's like a couple of different accesses to it, and there's campsites there. There's a nice trail that me and my friends actually help clean up every year. And, you know, just a great place for fishing. Great place for swimming. You know,
how big is the lake?
Ooh, I cannot tell you, but it's a smaller lake.
Smaller lake.
Yeah.
Is it deep?
Yeah, it's deep. If you get out into the middle, it definitely is.
Interesting. What are some common misconceptions people have about this area?
You know, this is kind of funny because I am from Detroit. I will go ahead and say this. When I first moved here and I would go back home, you know, or actually even before I moved here, you know, all of my friends, you know, we're all black, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see
Maybe
that.
I have a couple of Hispanic, you know, a couple white friends, but they were always like, hey man, just make sure you're okay. Watch your back up there. You know, you don't know how those people are going to be, you know, just be careful, you know, and they're all just paranoid that honestly that I'm going to run into like a lot of racism up here and, you know, you got to watch your back. And the times that how long that I've been up here, I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't witnessed any of that because there's probably been like 2 or 3 occasions where I have, but those were either people with mental health issues usually, or, you know, had something to deal with them personally deeper inside. Whereas I would say 95% of people that I come into contact with don't share that same thing and have either helped me succeed in a way or just have been in my corner in general. So definitely that was one of the misconceptions that I think that if you don't live here and you are, you know, a different, you know, race or ethnicity, you know, that you could be worried about. But I don't think that's a big deal.
And I think, you know, this conversation is valuable because, look, I think it's okay to say this, you know, by and large, Northern Michigan, for the history of Northern Michigan, has been a very white area. And I think with the growth, you know, would you advise anybody, you know, if I'm a minority and I'm thinking about moving to Northern Michigan, would you say do it, don't do it, it's safe, it's not safe? What would your advice to that person be?
I would say do it. I would say definitely do it. It's safe. It's probably going to be safer than what you're used to.
Right.
And you're going to be mind blown at the fact that it is because, you know, it's interesting how less crime and like, you know, all of that stuff is up here just overall. So, yeah, I think it would be, I would tell them to do it. And I would also just tell them to make sure that they bring their A game, you know, Don't be a prick.
How does the cost of living, and Northern Michigan, we talked about a minute ago, the cost of living is obviously a hot button topic, but how does the cost of living here compare to other areas that you've lived?
It's funny that you asked that because I actually have only ever had my own apartment in Petoskey, I guess, except for when I moved to Florida. And my rent actually is really good here, but everybody else's, I think is, you know, been raised because I found a place that I got lucky with. So to my knowledge, I would say if you're gonna spend $1,000 in a city, then you're gonna spend $2,000 here.
Right.
So if whatever it is, wherever you are, if you're in a city that's not like LA, Texas, New York, like Dallas, New York, something like that, you're probably gonna end up paying double of what you're used to seeing for like the same thing if it's one bedroom.
Yeah, absolutely. It's expensive.
Yeah.
So we go out to eat together all the time. You like restaurants, I like restaurants. What is your favorite local cuisine? Give us a good one. Don't give us Chandler's or something everybody's gonna say. Give us a good one.
No, yeah. I want to say one of my top favorites is Amchi Mumbai.
Okay, the Indian place.
Food restaurant. Yeah, they have varieties, and the great thing about it is they have good food. But if you're trying to go somewhere with somebody that has food allergies and very limited things that they can eat, that's a place that you can take them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they have vegan options, all these other options. Whereas like some places might have a vegan option on the menu, might be one.
Right.
So
they have multiple vegan options. We were there one time when it first opened, but I haven't been there since it first opened. Yeah,
definitely one of my favorite places. But if I have to pick a favorite like American food place, I'm gonna say Whiskey Inn.
Whiskey Inn.
Those wings are just bomb.
Where's Whiskey Inn located?
Boyne Falls, right next to Boyne Mountain.
Yeah.
Honestly, like I will drive away from Boyne Mountain to go eat at Whiskey Inn every time.
I don't blame you. You took us there one time, and the wings are phenomenal. It's small. It's a cool place.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Speaking of Boyne Mountain, how do you mentioned again earlier that you are a ski racer? How do you handle the winters?
It's funny, when I first moved here, I did not handle the winters great. I just wanted to stay in the house. I did not
inside
go out.
Cat.
Yeah, I didn't do much. But I think over the years, you get used to it because you've been doing it for so long. Your body gets acclimated to the cold.
Right.
So now, I'm out doing the skiing. I got no problem with shoveling my snow. I look at it as a nice little morning warm-up, before I go to CrossFit.
There you go.
And honestly, I didn't have a proper vehicle until about 2 years ago. And now, when they're like, thunderstorms, don't drive. No, not thunderstorms. Snowstorms, don't drive. Stay inside. I'm looking to go out and drive.
Right. You mentioned CrossFit earlier. What are some other organizations, communities you're involved with here? Obviously, I'm sure you're part of the creator community, which isn't really a formal thing, but it's just a group of you that get together. There's CrossFit. What other groups, since you've moved here, have you found yourself? Because that's one thing I love about Northern Michigan is, whether you want to play pickleball, whether you want to play volleyball, whether you want to, we love CrossFit. Shout out CrossFit Petoskey. There's a lot of gyms. There's a lot of ways to get involved in Northern Michigan. So what are a couple of places or a couple of things you've been involved in? I know you're on the board at Crooked Tree. Mm-hmm. I would argue if you're moving to Northern Michigan and you want to get, make friends or find your people, you got to start getting involved. If you just sit in your house all day, you're not going to meet anyone. But there's no shortage. There are no shortages of ways for you to get involved. So what are a couple of things that you're involved in that, you spend your time in, the communities that you're part of?
Yeah, definitely. The board of directors of the Crooked Tree Art Center is definitely a fun and interesting one.
What is the Crooked Tree Art Center for anybody that doesn't know?
The Crooked Tree Art Center is basically just our local art gallery. Yeah. People can go in there and they have 2 different galleries where they have things different going on all the time. And they also have an auditorium where they put on live music or plays or things like that. And it's nice because I get to be a part of planning some of those things and like talking about budget and just learning like how a nonprofit operates with being an art institute in Petoskey.
Sure, absolutely. And that's something, not to interrupt you, that is something that is underrated, is the art scene in Northern Michigan. Mm-hmm. They have the Crooked Tree Art Center, they have the Dart for Art, they have the Great Lakes Center for the Arts. I mean, arts are something, and I think that comes with having a lot of wealthy people in the area that, fund these sort of things. But I think the art community in Northern Michigan is one of those that's sort of underrated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a part of that. And I also, Bliss Fest.
Yeah. What is Bliss Fest? I mean, we all know what it is, but people listening to this might not know.
Yeah, you're right. So Bliss Fest is one of the biggest music festivals in Northern. It is the biggest music festival in Northern Michigan that happens yearly. And honestly, it's huge. It has like 5 stages of people performing 3 days in a weekend, every July. per year, and I get to go and be a part of their media, team, and just kind of help capture that, as well as my own personal festival that I'm a part of, which is the Lost Tamarack, Soul of the Lost Tamarack, and we do that every June every year. And with that, we have the same thing. We only have one stage, but what we end up doing in our niche is we live stream all of the musicians. So not only do musicians leave there with a body of work that they can send if they want to, send it to other houses to perform later, but it actually is something that we project to the side of the barn. So at nighttime, when our musicians are playing, like the barn gets packed, it's like there's nowhere to move, but there's people who don't really like being in that tight confined space. So we actually project a multi-camera switch on the side of the barn. So you actually enjoying the show from outside in your car, or like whatever you may be. You don't necessarily have to be like jam packed in there. So I really love that one too.
If somebody wants to learn more about that event, I know you're passionate about it, so let's feel free to plug it. Where can they? Is there a website? Is there? Do they call you? How do they learn more?
Yeah, just you can Google search Lost Tamarack Lodge or go to losttamarackLodge.com. You'll be able to see our lineup for 2024. See all the things that happen. The camping, the vendors, things like that.
Awesome. So we're doing this podcast. It's the beginning of May. Summer's on the horizon. What are a couple of things you're looking forward to, both personally and professionally, this summer? How are you going to spend? I feel like so often before we know it, summer comes and goes, and those 100 days go quickly because everybody's just so busy doing everything they wait all year to do. But what are a couple of things you're looking forward to, this summer, both personally or professionally?
It's funny that you mentioned that because I remember when I first got into this video photo thing, one of the main things that I always watched on YouTube and wanted to do was real estate videos and photography. And it's just because I like nice homes and like things that, like nice features, and Absolutely. Things like that. Some things that I want someday, And it's funny because the first time I was ever hired to actually do a real estate photo shoot, it was horrible. Like, you know what I mean? The guy was just like, "What is this?" And I was just like, "I tried. I'm sorry." Like, That wasn't us, was it? No. Okay, good. I didn't remember. This was a long time. I don't remember. Yeah, no. So I'm actually, it's funny that you say that because, being your editor, and video guy, I'm actually looking forward to the ventures that we have going on this summer in order to like push the YouTube channel, because I've never created a YouTube channel for someone, and now that I'm in the depths of understanding how SEO works and how to capture people's attention and hold it longer, I'm looking forward to us getting out and getting some things in order to like kind of really explain more about the area as a whole, in order to get people to understand more about like what Northern Michigan is about. So
no, I love that. And if you would have told me, a year ago we were starting, but 2 or 3 years ago, that the content creation and working with you and now the podcast was going to be such a big part of what we're doing. And look, the YouTube channel, the YouTube videos, and this. I mean, this is a big. We spent a lot of money to set up the podcast studio. This is something that we're putting a lot of effort into. So obviously, we're extremely fortunate to have you on our team. And from somebody that's I've been doing this for 20 years. It's almost given me a little bit more of a pep in my step and made me, I don't want to say love doing this again, but it's sort of a new adventure. And it's awesome that we've had success with it. And we've been able to help a lot of people. And I think between the YouTube channel and this podcast, these are going to be great resources for anybody that's considering moving to Northern Michigan. Because if I was moving to Orlando or Los Angeles and I could listen to, podcasts or watch videos to find out what it's actually like to live here, I think that's just a great resource to give to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if people want to reach out to you or learn more about you, where can they find you?
So you can go to the website at alpinemediaco.com. Also, I'm not going to tell you that you can find me on Facebook or Instagram because I'm really bad at those. I'm trying to get better at those. I do have something on there, but you will see that it is not very consistent. So the most consistent space to find things for me is on my website.
All right. Well, if you want to learn more about DeJuan, hit him up on his website. And just want to thank you for being here today and thank you for all you do for us. And we're definitely lucky to have you.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.